Welcome to our CoSIDA Special Awards video series where we introduce you to the honorees who received our organization's top awards in 2020 and 2021. I'm Nick Guerrero, and I'll be your host for this video salute. Today, we talk to the 2020 Bud Nangle Award recipient, Tono Altobelli of Orange Coast College. The Bud Nangle Award is presented to a member of CoSIDA or an individual outside of CoSIDA who shows ethics, integrity, and bravery under unusual or stressful situations while carrying out their job duties. Tony, welcome.
Thank you.
We wish you were here in person to honor you, but it's COVID. We're in pandemic mode still, so we're going to have this conversation online.
Do the best we can.
But before we hear from you, I'd like to review your journey, personal and professional, that you've gone through over the past year. January 26, 2020 was the fateful day of the helicopter crash that took the lives of 9 individuals, the lives of 3 Altobelli family members and 6 others, including NBA star Kobe Bryant. You lost your brother, nationally recognized Orange County baseball coach John Altobelli, and John's wife and daughter, your sister-in-law Carrie, and your niece Alyssa. Not only were you dealing with this shock, but add to that, you are the spokesperson for the athletic department and the lone SID on staff. For those of you who may not know the full story, Tony immediately began performing his duty in this crisis with bravery, courage, and determination. In the early hours of the tragedy, Tony handled an enormous amount of international, national, and local media demands, coordinating all publicity for the accident, putting together the school's official statement about the deaths of John, Carrie, and Alyssa. And Tony, you also met with staff, coaches, family members of the baseball team. Tony, we again send our condolences to you, your family, and the Orange Coast community for your loss. Man, Tony, tell us how you're doing just 15 months after the tragedy.
Well, first off, Nick, thank you for letting me be a part of this today, and thank you to CoSIDA for recognizing what I went through these last 15 months. Love and support's been incredible, so thank you for that. I kind of smile when you say it's been 15 months because I can't believe it's been 15 months. You know, some days it feels like it happened 15 minutes ago. Short answer to your question is how we're doing. We're doing okay. You know, it's the old adage, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, one episode at a time, you know. What's really helped us a lot is the fact that we have our sports back. We're back to kind of doing what we do. I know the people that work at Orange Coast, we think about it every day. But it's nice to kind of have a little bit of normal back in our lives again.
Yeah, going back to that January week, Tony, you also prepared and coordinated the special day of remembrance for your brother and his family at the baseball season opener, the season opener for your team, 2 days after the crash. Tell us a little bit about that day. A lot of media, over 2,000 fans. I think, I read some of those almost, maybe 40% more fans than on a normal game. So, just dealing with that. How did you manage all that emotionally?
Yeah, we're a humble little 2-year school. So normally we get 50, 60 people show up to a baseball game. So to see over 2,000 show up, that was incredible. As far as preparing for that day, you can't really prepare for it. I was still kind of in a state of shock at that point. But the interviews had already started happening for me. ESPN was on me the day it happened, and he was doing kind of a feature on me throughout that day. Just to kind of see what I normally do throughout the course of a day. And it was early as 11:30 in the morning of that day. We still weren't really sure what we were going to do for the pregame. And nobody really wanted to have that answer. Like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. So I just said, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have the coach from the other team talk beforehand, say a few words. Then I'll be the MC and I'll pass it along to somebody else. Then I'll pass it along to our coach and then I'll say a few words at the end of it. And it kind of a funny story about that whole situation. We had all the players on the foul lines where, like you said, there was media everywhere. If you're on the podium, literally from your peripherals all the way in front of you were cameras. And, like I said, we're not used to that kind of attention. And I knew we had a baseball game to play. And I remember looking out on the field and seeing the players are all crying, like every one of them. Even the Southwestern team is crying, right? So I'm looking at my script going, I can't say these things that I'm about to say because it's just going to make it even worse. So I kind of ad-libbed a few things. I showed our state championship ring that got a good giggle out of people. And I told the story of one of the umpires that day came over and gave me a hug and started crying all over me because he felt so bad about what had happened. And all I could think of was my brother, who wasn't a big fan of umpires. He made an umpire cry that day, which, I found that kind of humorous. So we went with that kind of feeling. I'll remember that moment. The game itself was kind of a blur. No recollection of that. But then the interviews afterward, it was a stressful, very emotional day.
Yeah, and obviously in our industry, one of the main topics that we always talk about, whether at a convention or we're doing some of our Teachable Tuesdays, is about crisis communications. Talk to us a little bit about what are some of the things maybe now you're reflecting on it that you maybe learned, and maybe some things that you've spoken to people about of how to handle these situations.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something that unfortunately we dealt with a little bit in 2009. We had a player that died on the baseball team. So it's something that unfortunately I was a little bit familiar with. Nothing to this extent, obviously, but still it was something to fall back on. The best piece of advice I can tell any SIDs that are out there is trust the system that you have at your school. At Orange Coast, we have a contingency plan. We have a hierarchy. We have steps that we've gone over time and time again. And when tragedy like that hits, you don't want to be thinking about those kinds of steps. You want them to kind of happen fluidly. And I'm forever grateful for the quote unquote the bigwigs of our school for stepping up and doing what we were supposed to do when that situation happened. We knew that media was coming. We knew to keep them off the players, to make sure that just there's certain steps were in order, and it was as flawless as it could be. And I'm forever grateful for that experience. And like I said, just for the SIDs out there, lean on other people, lean on your athletic director, lean on your dean, lean on the president of the college, even do what you have to do to get the right answers and do the right thing.
Yeah. And, you go from one situation, fast forward a couple more months, and now COVID hits. And, just reading the story and understanding, what it's like to be in that one-man shop where you're the PA guy, you're the stat guy, you're the music guy. You may be taking photos from the press box as well sometimes. How did you handle kind of going through the situation that you went through when you lost your brother and the student athletes wanted to play? They wanted to continue playing that season because, they could have said, you know what, we're just not in the right mindset, to now having to deal with COVID. Just for your university and maybe some of your friends out there, how did you handle that?
Yeah, I've said to people, Nick, that if I could change one thing in this whole situation, it would be to move COVID to 2021 or 2022 or never, obviously. But right. When it happened, it was as bad as it could possibly be because we needed that normalcy. All of our sports, all of our coaches, our entire college needed to go back to normal. And COVID denied us of that. And that was the hardest part of this whole situation was, the kids not being able to go out and play a baseball game. My dad, who comes to all the games and sits in the press box with me, not to be able to, have some closure with the loss of his son at the ballpark. Myself, even, not being able to go to the field and just say hi to my brother or even my mother, or, they're both no longer with us. And just stuck at home with your thoughts, I guess, was probably the hardest part of it. What we did was just kind of leaned on each other. I stayed busy with projects. In the springtime, I'm lucky that I have a pretty cool boss and a cool administration that didn't really ask a whole lot of me after COVID shut us all down because they knew what I'd gone through the last couple of months. But I wanted to stay busy and I wanted to keep us as relevant as we possibly could. So we worked on a few things in the springtime, and then in the fall, we dedicated our entire semester to featuring every sport that we had and did coach features and Zoom interviews and historical things and a feature called Forever Pirates where we had former athletes actually write their own story, kind of talk from their own narrative on what it was like to be at Orange Coast. And that was probably the coolest thing out of all of them was that project that it really brought out the love of our school through a lot of people. So long answer, just kind of keeping myself busy, trying to find things to do. And like I said, now that we're back playing again, we couldn't be happier. It's so good to be back doing normal things again.
Take me back, obviously, right before season's about to start. I think I was reading the story. You were driving, you bypassed, I guess, your home exit, and you went back to your office and you penned this amazing letter that I'm kind of tearing up as I'm talking to you about this.
Try writing it.
Dear John, thank you. Love, Toad. I guess everyone goes through things differently, and you were a sports writer prior to being in the sports information industry. So writing is what you do for a living, How did it happen? It's got to be one of those things where you just sitting in the car and said, you know what, I have to be able to express myself through words, because that's what we all do for a living.
Yeah.
Take me through that. How did it just happen?
Yeah, I'll take it back to the first day after this tragedy happened. I had to go back in the office and I had to write a story, and I wasn't sure which story I was going to write. Am I going to write the journalism 101 story, or am I going to write something from my heart about the loss of my brother and family? So I sat there for a few minutes, and that story wasn't ready to come out yet. So I wrote the who, what, where, when, why, and like you said, I was a sports writer for 15 years, so that just kind of put it on automatic pilot and write the basics and called it a night. The next day, which was Monday, I had some friends that were in town from Vegas, and we were having lunch together, and they needed to ride back to the airport. So I drove them back to the airport, and right around then, after I dropped them off, I'm sitting in traffic because it's 5 p.m, and it's just hit me like, this is what I'm going to write. And I compare it to a musician when at 3 o'clock in the morning, they have an idea and they pop up and they immediately have to write it before they forget about it. So I got back to the office as quickly as I could that Monday. And fortunately for me, nobody was around, which allowed me to kind of shut the door and put on some music. And any thought that popped in my head, I wrote it down. And I think the final story ended up being around 2,000 words. I think I had about 20,000 words up there at one point, and just kind of trimmed it and made it to where it was. But I wanted to get all those emotions out of me, and they did. You're talking about nearly tearing up. I wish there was a camera on me when I was writing that thing, because I had every emotion from laughter until I was crying from laughing so hard to bawling like a baby. So it was very therapeutic. It felt really good to do. I wasn't sure if I should put it up on our website because it was kind of a personal message, but I said, you know what? They can always tell me to take it down. So I put it up, and Nick, it's funny. Everyone talks about hits or likes or views on their stories. At my place, man, if we get a couple 100 hits or 500 hits, I'm a happy camper. If we win a state title, make it 1,000, 2,000 hits. That thing's sitting at about 3.7 million hits right now, and it's unbelievable. I'm very happy that I put that up, and I'm glad that it's meant a lot to people that have read it. So one of my better stories I've ever written was a letter to my brother, which was basically a response to him writing me a letter back when he was in college. He and I drove out together, and he thanked me with a letter. So I'm finally returning the message to him.
Yeah. That kind of struck me, obviously your brother's older than you, and, as you talk about being one of the young ones, but the second favorite, child. Obviously going from, where you guys were living to Houston to just being in the road with him, probably just talking his ear off, back then we didn't have, there were no cell phones, and, there was no Apple Play. So just having that conversation, I'm sure that brought back a lot of memories as well. I think, you talk about reflecting and everything, but how do you go day by day now? How do you just, get up and put your sneakers on and get back to the baseball field, knowing that, the person who really helped you get into, the sports world, being your brother, because, being older than you and tagging around with him and stuff like that. Was it easy? Was it hard? Are there days you're just kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore? Or every day you're just sitting there and you're looking at that number 14, like you have in your background, and it just kind of push you and motivate you to do the best you can?
Yeah, you know what, Nick? The old adage, time heals all wounds, is so spot on. It's the first day I did it, I went through this. It was all adrenaline. I don't know how I did it. I slept for maybe an hour. But the hardest part was waking up that second day. And I looked down at my phone. I had 500 new messages on there, and I was just avalanche, and I was overwhelmed. I didn't want to get out of bed, and I literally had to talk myself into every single step of the process of that day, and treat each one of these little steps like a victory. Like, okay, get out of bed. Okay, brush your teeth. Okay, take a shower. Like all these things that just seemed impossible. And each day since then has gotten better. Microscopically some days. But some days are better than others, and you talked about the field and what it's like to be back there. That plot of land has always been kind of a special place for me. Even before John was the head coach and I was even an SID there, I'm a former student at Orange Coast College, and I did the baseball class before John was even hired. Our old coach was running the show, and my last ever baseball experience as an athlete was on that field. So when my mom passed away in 2006, we did fundraising to get a new snack shop and bathrooms and a press box for me and all these things. And there's a big plaque of my mother on the back of my press box. So even before John passed away, that place is a very special area for me. So now I love going there. I love going to Orange Coast. It's like seeing family, and I give my mom a little pat on my press box, and I give John a little pat on one of the many pictures that are out on that field. It's nice. It's a nice, warm feeling to be a part of that facility, to be a part of that program, and to be a part of the school.
Yeah, that was one of the visions for your brother, putting together a major league ballpark. I think, we raised over $3 million for that. And, it just shows that he wasn't just a coach. He was a community man. And, I think that's very important, at all levels. And I think for the legacy he's leaving and stuff like that, it's just tremendous to see, what people do outside of being on the field. Is there anyone out there you want to thank? You want to, maybe talk a little bit about, reading all the stories and reading about all the community members and student athletes, parents out there that, always remember your brother. But is there anybody out there maybe you personally just want to give a shout out to that helped you through the experience?
Boy, Nick, there's so many of them. Without taking too much time here, yes, I couldn't have gotten through this without, we talk about the Pirate family all the time, and mainly it's sports related and our players, but our whole school is one big family. And my coworkers, our administrative staff, like our athletic director, Jason Kaler, our compliance lady, Ashley Rippian, our dean, Michael Sutliff, our coaches, our administrators, like there's just so many people that helped me get through the hardest part of that whole situation. Our marketing and PR department that just stepped up and did amazing work on putting those banners up that you saw on the news videos. And at the 1 year anniversary mark, we did a kind of a cool tribute video because we couldn't all get together because of COVID. They stepped up and at the last minute put together something really special. So I'm always grateful for that. The one thing that really touched me a lot were the SIDs around the state of California, and throughout the nation. I mean, there were so many messages I got from SIDs at 4-year schools all over the country, but especially my 2-year brothers and sisters in California offering to just step up and help me cover a softball game if I needed a day off, or just being there and doing things for me above and beyond the call of duty. I am forever grateful to that family of my life, As one person in particular I wanted to thank, right down the road from Orange Coast College is an NAIA school, Vanguard University. And Jeff Melton is the assistant AD in charge of media and communications there. And he doesn't know me from a hole in the wall, basically. And he reached out to me. He was on me every day, just making sure I was doing okay, wanting to help out with their equipment to help us film this and cover it. And, hey, you need somebody to do a basketball game. You need somebody to do whatever, And, Jeff, if you ever watch this, I'm forever grateful, and I appreciate our friendship. And I can't tell you what that time meant to me to help me get through that. So, they talked about how I was able to be strong and handle all this. It wasn't by myself. I had a crew of people that helped me and lifted me through all this tough time.
Well, before we let you go, this kind of convention, wouldn't say tradition or so, but I'm going to put you on the spot because it was a part of the story. What was your karaoke song you sang?
For the night after it happened, what it was actually, it was kind of a misinformation. I have some friends that play guitar, and I went to their house, and they all wanted to help me. Like, what can we do for you? I'm like, what we can do is not talk about it. You know, give me a hug, give me a Captain and Coke, and let's just have some fun tonight. And so my two friends like to play guitar, and I was singing along all the songs that they were playing. So we probably did 20 songs that night, a lot of Eagles stuff, a lot of classic rock stuff. So yeah, that was exactly what I needed. We were up till 2:00 in the morning, just laughing and doing what I think my brother would have done in my situation.
Oh, that's awesome. Tony, on behalf of CoSIDA, we want to congratulate you for the Bud Nangle Award recognition, and thank you for showing us perseverance and bravery in a time of personal and professional loss. Thank you for sharing your story and experience with us today. We wish you all the best moving forward.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.